Welcome to myFace, myStory, Voices from the Craniofacial Community, with your host, Dina Zuckerberg.
Hello, and welcome to myFace, myStory, Voices from the Craniofacial Community. I'm Dina Zuckerberg, your host and Director of Family Programs at myFace. Like many of you listening, I have a craniofacial difference. I was born with a cleft lip, a hearing loss, and no vision in my left eye. myFace, myStory is about people like us being seen and heard, about sharing stories within the craniofacial community and with others. This podcast episode is made possible through support from the Integra Foundation, committed to improving lives. By the way, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening through Apple Podcasts, click subscribe now and we'll keep you updated on future episodes so you never miss out. And if you're a fan of myFace, myStory, please rate and review the program on Apple Podcasts so we can get our message of inclusivity and empowerment to more people. Today, I am joined by Adele Capitella-Liu. Adele is a retired New York City teacher and also worked with troubled teens in the foster care system. She stopped working after she was diagnosed with breast cancer and has Parry-Romberg Syndrome. She adores traveling, painting, arts and crafts, and walking. When she has a minute, she enjoys writing poetry as it gives her a proper outlet to voice her interior soul. She is the administrator for the Facebook group Adult Facial Difference Community with 500 members. Welcome, Adele.
Thank you, Dina. I really appreciate
Yeah,
this. This is a great opportunity.
yeah,
Glad to be here.
yeah. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So, can you share your personal journey growing up with Parry-Romberg syndrome and how did that experience shape who you are today?
So, Parry-Romberg starts off extremely subtle, but growing up, I knew there was a difference. I think at a very
Mm,
young age, I already had hair loss, which is known as alopecia, and kind of made me a little bit more aware of being different.
mm-hmm,
However, I went to school, I made lots of friends, I enjoyed my childhood. But as I got older, because the condition is progressive, I started to notice changes in my face. And I also noticed the changes of the way people were treating me or,
mm-hmm.
whispering behind your back, rude comments. I'm sure you know what I'm speaking of.
Yeah, I can totally relate.
But I think the experience has made me very aware of other people and the challenges we face day to day. People with different disabilities or people who just struggle through life even without a facial difference or a disability.
Mm.
So
So, did you have surgeries growing up in your adult years?
I did in my early 40s, but I didn't
Mm,
find out the name of my condition until I was about 39 years old.
oh, wow.
So it was actually a big relief to find out that I had a name for what I had. So once I found out, then I started my search, looking for doctors that could help me, uh, help my appearance look more normal. So
Right.
uh,
Um, so growing up with Parry-Romberg syndrome, what would you say were your most significant challenges, and how did you find the strength to overcome them?
I think I was very stoic. I kind of ignored a lot of the nonsense that was going on around me. But I
Mm-hmm.
absorbed all of it, and I remembered things people said to me, and even though I didn't respond, it still hurt. So,
Yeah.
um, I remember in college, I was walking on campus, and someone yelled out a dorm window, "Hey, radiation face!" So things you
Wow.
don't forget. You know?
Yeah.
And even on my quest to finding proper care from a doctor, I walked into one appointment and the doctor said I looked like I was dying of AIDS. I'm like, whoa. Those were
Wow.
pretty hefty
Yeah.
things to listen to and hear, and it kind of adds to the trauma of being different, you know?
Yeah. And it's amazing how I always say when I go in schools to speak to kids, but it's true how we remember those moments. Like those moments stay with you forever, I think. You don't just forget them. And what's interesting is probably those people who said it, you know, don't even remember
No,
that they
no.
probably even said it. So, but they don't realize the impact that you can have on somebody else with words like that and how that the trauma is true. There's trauma around that for
And
sure.
you work your whole life to forget about it, but it still stays in the back of your head. And then when another incident happens, it triggers a whole flood of new memories and old memories. And it takes a day or two to bring yourself back down and ground yourself and stop rehashing some
Right.
of the words that people say to you.
Yeah. It's hard to separate that
Yeah,
out, right? The past, the present, the
yeah.
future.
Well,
Yeah.
and also because this is an ongoing issue, you know what's going to happen again
Right.
in the future. So you never really get over past these
Mm-hmm.
traumas that you're uh, subjected to. So you're always on high alert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's true. So, how did your time as an elementary school teacher and then working with troubled teens in foster care influence your perspective on resilience and connection?
I worked in a lot of Title I schools or, in low income areas. So I understood
Mm-hmm.
the struggle some of these kids were having and how they also felt a little bit on the cusp of society and um, not fully part of society. There's always that struggle that they need to do better and fit in. And the same with the children in foster care. Um, they were like throwaway children. Sometimes these kids had to pack up their belongings and go from foster home, and they're leaving these
Mm-hmm.
places with plastic bags with all their possessions in it. So I kind of connected to these kids in a different way, and they were easily connected to me because they were free to open up to me. They didn't hesitate to say,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I'm having a problem with this, that, or something else, and they knew if they came to me, I would take care of them.
Right,
So,
right.
they would often complain that people that worked in the system were just there for their check. They would tell me,
Mm-hmm.
um, Miss Adele, you're legitimate. You're really here to help us. So
Mm-hmm. That must have
I
felt
did.
nice to know that.
I understood their struggle.
Yeah. And just curious, when you were an elementary school teacher, did kids ask you about your difference? Did they notice
I
it?
never really had anybody say anything. Sometimes you'll get a kid that was a little smart mouth, but for the most part, I had younger kids, usually
Mm-hmm.
first, second, third grade, and these kids would go into battle for me if they needed to, because you're their mom away from home, so you're nurturing them all day, and they know when
Mm-hmm.
when they need a mom figure and not a teacher for the day, so you kind of wear many
Right.
hats during the day.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure.
Yeah. So
So, what inspired you to become an advocate for the facial difference community, and how has that journey unfolded for you?
so I thought, growing up, um, in my day and age, there really wasn't support for persons with facial differences. We were flying solo most of the time, and I felt the need
Mm-hmm.
to really connect with other people that had similar experiences. So out of my frustration, I created, a Facebook group, Adults with Facial Differences, so we could form a community and bond and share similar experiences. And that's been a complete joy for me, actually. It
Mm,
just really opened up my eyes and opened the door to meeting so many amazing people from all walks of life and from many different places around the country and around the world.
right. Do you remember the first time you met somebody with a facial difference? Were you much older
Oh,
when
yeah.
you met
I was in
somebody? Or,
college. I was 21, and
mm-hmm,
I was a young guy, and I'm like, oh, I have to meet this guy. um,
mm-hmm,
and we're still friends to this day. And he was studying to become a nurse, and I was studying to be a teacher. And he had microtia, hemifacial microtia,
mm,
hemifacial.
uh-huh.
I forget what it's called now.
Like microsomia.
Microsomia, yeah, and
Hemifacial
microtia,
microsomia.
yeah.
Mm,
So
okay.
that was such an aha moment for me, meeting someone else with a craniofacial difference. It was like you feel like a soul connection with this person, you
Right.
know?
And then you realize you're not alone.
Yeah,
Like you're not the
yeah.
only
So
one.
now I have like someone to talk to. Like they would understand some of the experiences I have or having, and
Mm,
a good sounding board. So
right.
that was a really special moment in my life, meeting someone else with
Absolutely.
a facial difference.
To our audience, I hope that you're enjoying this episode of My Face, My Story. Whether it's your first time joining us or you've been with us since the beginning, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube and Apple Podcast channels and sign up for our mailing list at myface.org/mystory. So, Adele, you and I put together an adult retreat for people with facial differences, which we held in August, which was pretty amazing. Can you share what that experience was like for you?
Just the idea of coming together as a community is so empowering, so inspiring, so heartwarming. It's like a Hallmark movie. uh, but we came together from 10 different states in Canada, and we
Mhm.
just fell into such a comfortable and relaxed time of enjoying each other's company and conversation and different activities that we planned throughout the weekend. It was just a really fun time. I think the premise of the whole weekend was to really let down your hair and enjoy each other's company and restore ourselves to who we really are, you know? Sometimes
Yeah,
we lose ourselves,
it,
always, like we talked about before, protecting ourselves and waiting for the next traumatic moment to hit us.
right. Yeah, I feel like we could let down our guard or let
Yes,
down that wall
abs-
in a way that we don't get to do as often as
absolutely.
we
Yeah.
probably would like. For me, I think it was really powerful when we did the Kintsugi workshop. That the idea of breaking the bowl into pieces. I actually have mine here. Um, and breaking it into pieces and then putting it back together again using gold um, paint or whatever that gold glue. And maybe you can help me with the premise of it, but it was just the idea
Of
that
things, we can't throw away things if they're broken. We can fix them and make them more beautiful. So put things
exactly,
back together with gold. So all of us are, with all our flaws, we could fill them all in with gold because we're all precious people, you know.
yeah, I love
Yeah.
that, yeah,
And we talk about fitting in, but I think what the weekend did for us was that we all knew that we belonged there. It was it was more than
Mm-hmm.
fitting in. It was a sense of belonging to a community that is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
So, speaking of art and creating, you've mentioned that painting, crafts, and poetry are outlets for self expression. How do these creative pursuits help you process your experiences and connect with others?
well, that's exactly right. It does help me process a lot of difficult times in my life, difficult moments. It's a safe outlet,
Mm,
using your hands to create something out of nothing and seeing a final product is just uh, very rewarding. And you felt like whatever was in here is now out in a piece of work that you've created. So even the poetry is a release of words that are in your head that sometimes you just can't explain out loud. So you put it on paper.
right,
So,
absolutely. And I always, when I'm talking to parents who are worried or wanting to help their kids, I always suggest that they help their child find a creative outlet or find something that they're passionate about, so that it allows that child to find their voice. I'm a big believer in helping a child to find their voice, and mainly I think, and you probably can relate some to this, is I think growing up I felt like I lost my voice some, because I in some ways was silenced by all of
yes,
this. So I think having that creative outlet is such a great way to express yourself.
yes.
Because sometimes you can't even say what's going on for you in words. So having these other outlets, I think, is really important.
And of course, for me growing up, that was my only outlet is was to write or to create something because there
Mm,
really, I really haven't met a community such as this until I was almost 55 years old. So that's a long time
yeah,
to go with
yeah,
um, support and people to speak with. So it's a new journey for me, and I'm really enjoying it. It's
that's great.
it's positive,
Yeah,
positive. I'm going in a positive direction.
I believe that too. So speaking of writing, how does writing poetry give you a voice, as we just talked about, to share your interior thoughts and emotions?
Because I could say whatever I want, Dina. I could
Hmm.
say, I could bleed my soul, and
Yeah,
it's just a release. With all this pent up anxiety, depression, fear. It all comes out from my hand to my pen onto the paper. So
right.
um, it's really a release, a healthy release.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I always wish I could write easier. I feel like it comes hard to me. I can write facts, like I could write a history paper, but talking from that emotional place is harder for
Hmm.
me. But I admire people that can do that, and I think I probably sell myself a little bit short because I've done it, but it's harder for me. So Adele, I don't know if you have a piece of poem that you've written that you especially meaningful to you that you want to
So
share.
I picked a different one
I'd love
today.
to
I
share.
it doesn't have a title. It's just called. It's
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote. It's today. I noticed the white
Oh wow.
clouds and how they move in silence. Then I spotted white butterflies and how they flit along and anoint their space in quiet flutters. Even the bees feed on the white dogwood bloom in a hush. The white plumed egret slices through the air without a din. Today I will become silent. I no longer have the words to say. This is my time to scurry like a monastic monk in prayer during evening vespers. It is a despondent way of seeking peace, as I am overwhelmed with brokenness. So it's a little
Wow.
different.
I love that. Hmm. Yeah, you definitely have a way with words. That's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank you. So, what has been the most meaningful or rewarding experience in your journey as an advocate for individuals with craniofacial differences? I don't know if you have a story or a moment, or just in
I
general.
think in general, what I'm witnessing is I think we're formulating a culture. Excuse me. Our voices are being heard, and we become more empowered, and we're strengthening because of our numbers are. We're coming together. We're bonding, and watching this community formulate a real culture of acceptance and of who we are. I think that really stands out to me. Um, I think we're blossoming, and that's important. We we've been silent for too long, and people are
Mm-hmm.
coming out and having meaningful discussions about the words we use to describe who we are and how we describe ourselves. There's always the debate about words that we find cringeworthy. How
Mm-hmm.
we are perceived by the medical community, by the general public, by the media. So uh, we're moving forward with showing ourselves as people with a facial difference. And I think
Right.
we have our work cut out for us, and I think we have to stand firm in who we are and who we are as a people.
Right.
We are a micro minority, I call us.
Right.
So
True.
we're very unique, and we're a strong and
Mm-hmm.
vibrant community, and I think people are going to see us for who we really are, in the
Right.
future.
I think the challenge has been that, in my opinion, that we've never really been a part of the larger conversation when it comes to differences and disabilities and all of that. And so I think, especially, and we talked about this briefly the other day, but I feel like the younger generation, not our generation, are really helping to put us on the map and put us out there because of all the ways that we can do that now
Yeah,
online. What are your thoughts on that?
absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I give them so much credit because I can never do what they do. They're really out there promoting
Hmm.
themselves, promoting this community, promoting who we are, giving us a voice, and without fear or shame. Like, we come from a generation where we were told to be quiet, sit in the corner, and don't say anything, and don't show your face. And
Right.
they've taken that and turned the page, and I see a very, very successful and bright future for this community moving forward.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really
Yeah.
blown away by all of it, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. We saw it a lot at the retreat
Yes,
anyway,
we did.
all the young ones there.
Yes, they're getting.
And I feel like on some level they feel, like you said, I guess they feel, to me, they seem more carefree and more open to talking about it in a way, like you said, that you and I didn't really have those opportunities, and didn't feel comfortable enough to do it.
No,
So I think, yeah, so I agree. It is amazing to watch it and feels really good that I feel like in some ways we were the,
pioneer,
I've heard it like
pioneers.
yes, we pioneers, exactly. I couldn't think of the word, that we were the pioneers that allows them to then take it to another level and it gives me a lot of hope knowing that there's possible change on the horizon
Absolutely.
and for the better.
I think their struggle won't be as deep as ours was. You know.
Right, right. And even in the media, when you're seeing the changes in media that are awfully slow, I think sometimes, but it's happening. Like we're seeing it more and more, I feel like,
Absolutely.
that we are, it's a lot of work in that domain. But I think at least there's more talk about it, I feel like. And so that's a good
And the
thing.
energy I see being put forth to say, look at me. I'm great. I'm good as just the way I am. I'm not hiding in the
Right,
shadows, you know.
right.
So I give them a lot of credit.
So, on that note, what advice would you give to young people living with a craniofacial or rare condition who may be struggling with their own self acceptance?
um, I think they need to make a few goals for themselves and promote themselves, make sure they um, practice self care, self compassion, self love. Look for ways to improve your self esteem. If you need help, by all means, seek it out. We didn't have that option to seek help, and always find someone to speak with, confide in someone, be in company of people that uplift you. So, and like always find that creative outlet to make yourself feel good. There's no reason for you to, skip out on life. You have to
Right.
experience it to the fullest because we're all entitled to that, you
Hmm.
know.
Really good advice. Even to take it myself sometimes,
And
really good
even
advice.
myself, I have to listen to myself.
Exactly. I feel like we give so much advice, but sometimes we need to
Yeah,
heed our own
we have to
advice. So,
practice. And it is a practice. It's a
exactly.
lot of work. It's a job to have a
Yeah.
facial difference.
Yeah. And it's a journey. I feel like it never really quite
Hmm.
ends. It's always a journey. And I think you and I and some of the others are on that journey. So, and so, what advice do you have for parents who just learned that their child has a facial difference?
Treat them like they don't have to be put on a pedestal or not on a pedestal. Treat them like any child that's in your home. Love them unconditionally, support them, um, listen to them most of all. Sometimes a child is crying and, maybe they don't want to say what's bothering them, but deep listening to your child and let them know that there's support for them and that mom and dad or
Right.
other family members will be there for them, cheering them on. But let them enjoy their
Right.
childhood. Let them go out, play in the mud, get dirty. You know?
Right. Right. Right.
um, and sometimes they're
Yeah.
going to have to experience um, things that are unkind. So,
Right.
and I think that's in all childhood. You're always going to have that, but sometimes it hurts a little bit deeper for a child with a craniofacial difference. But let them enjoy their
Right.
childhood. You know,
Right.
sometimes they're
Yeah.
too much going to doctor appointments and sitting in waiting rooms, and parents try to fix their child, to make them um,
Hmm.
to the society's standard, I guess you want to call it. But I mean, there's sometimes children do need surgery, for function. So,
Right.
but
Right.
it's a hard pill to swallow for the child and the parent.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of time they don't find out that their child has a facial difference until they're born. So, um, I always tell parents that I think what is not said is just as powerful as what is said from a child. So just listening and hearing them, and like you said, not always trying to fix it, but even just the act of hearing them and listening to them can really be, I think, a huge help for the
Oh,
child and give them a little comfort that they can share when things are not so great and share the good
oh,
moments too. But
absolutely.
yeah,
Um, and I think if a parent has the right attitude, this could be a really exciting journey. They can meet other
yeah.
parents who are in a similar situation, and they form a community and bond with each other and watch their children grow.
Yeah. So speaking of community, how important do you think it is to be a part of the community like myFace or your Facebook group, the adult group that you have on Facebook?
I think a community is utmost importance. It's the camaraderie and the sharing of experiences and stories and getting to know each other. It's I can't begin to tell you the amazing men and women and young adults that I've met through through my Facebook group. They display an enormous amount of resilience and courage. And I
So true,
really
right?
applaud each and every one of us in this community. There's real beauty in all of this. It really
Mm-hmm.
is. Um,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning of this podcast, we could be a Hallmark movie easily. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like we have our outer beauty, but there's also so much beauty inside too. And I feel like for the most part, we are, I think, more empathetic, more compassionate because of our own experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I think we have an inner understanding of human nature, you know,
right.
more insightful to
Hmm.
life's little quirks.
Yeah. And I think in some ways, some of us have had to grow up faster because, we've had so many surgeries or had to deal with things that some kids shouldn't have to deal with at such a young age
I
or
agree.
even when we're older. So I think that contributes to that sort of resilience and empathy and compassion and all of that we have in a way that I think, and the maturity. I think there's so much maturity sometimes that we
Yeah.
have because of our own experiences. So, Adele, looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of advocacy in the facial difference community, and what changes do you hope to see?
Wow. um,
I know it's a
it
big
is.
question. Big question.
Well, I like to see the adult retreat grow in the future. I want to expand that and see it happening for a larger group of adults and young adults as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that changes will be made in social media, the media on TV, movies. I think they're starting to hear us, but we still have to keep pushing our agenda. And I think
Mm-hmm.
eventually change will come. I don't know if it's going to come in my lifetime, but it's going to come. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not always going to be easy. It's always going to be a little bit of a
Right.
fight, but
Right.
I see change on the horizon, and I,
I
and
agree.
I really believe that we're coming together as a community and we're creating our own culture. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so it's actually exciting to see this move forward. You know,
Mm-hmm.
all the advocacy and the activism that's going on now, it's all new. So
Yeah. I feel like even just in the last 3 years, there's been so much more that's happened Like I feel like it's been rapid in the last couple of years in a way that there's just so many more people out there advocating in the community in a way that,
And because of social media, we were able to find each other. When we were younger, we
yeah,
were at a loss. We're
yeah,
scouring crowds looking for other people that look different.
right,
And now here we are. And I'm sure there's still people
yeah,
out there looking for community and a place to feel safe.
yeah. I get emails all the time from adults looking for community and saying they never had it growing up, and then being part of the adult support group and meeting so many others who say the same thing. I never had this when I was growing up, and how meaningful it is for
Yeah.
them now.
It's
So,
truly a game changer. It really is. When I left the retreat in August, I was on cloud nine. It was like, oh, I
yeah,
just felt so really inspired and ready, for the next challenge. But it's good for your soul.
absolutely. Okay, so two questions that I always like to ask. What would you say to your younger self knowing what you know today?
Hmm. What would I say to my younger self? Never give up. Just keep pushing forward.
Mm,
Um, Always look on the positive side of things. Sometimes negativity overwhelms you, but
mm-hmm.
there's always hope, and things could always get better. You know, not to
Yeah,
not to dwell in your heartache.
yeah,
Experience,
I
yeah,
like that.
experience life to the fullest.
Yeah. So who do you see when you look in the mirror today?
Wow. um, I see somebody that's really been through a lot of heartache, a lot of trauma, but I also see, I don't call myself a survivor. I call myself a warrior.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that word.
So I had a conversation with a priest friend of mine years ago, and he told me I was Joan of Arc. I said, "Wow." So
That's a good one. That's a huge
yeah,
honor.
so
Yeah.
definitely a warrior. That's what
hmm
I see.
I love that. I love that. So, Adele, thank you for sharing your journey and your advocacy. And I think as I can put myself close to your category, but as somebody who's an older member of the community, um, I feel like, as I said, like we're the pioneers, right? And there is so much to be hopeful for.
Absolutely.
And so, thank you for sharing
Thank you
with
for
me
allowing
and
me.
doing this
I
podcast.
really,
Yeah,
this was very nice, Dina. I love this.
yeah,
We get
I
to
do
know
too.
each
So
other
thank
better.
you. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Dina.
So thank you. Adele is an inspiration to me and everyone she meets. Everyone has a story, and I'm hopeful that by sharing stories like these, we can create a kinder world. For more than 70 years, myFace has been dedicated to changing the faces and transforming the lives of children and adults with facial differences by providing access to holistic, comprehensive care, education, resources, and support that pave the way for better outcomes. To learn more, please visit myface.org. If you would like to learn more about the myface support groups so that you can connect with others in the craniofacial community, please visit myface.org/online-groups. Be sure to subscribe to the MyFace My Story podcast on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube to get notified of our next episode. If you'd like to receive email reminders of new episodes, sign up at myface.org/mystory. That's myface.org/mystory. Thank you for joining us for this episode of myFace, myStory. Remember, it takes courage to share your story, so be brave and speak out.